This is a symposium because we are handling a particular topic. Is public speaking. Public speaking. The first question that should come to your mind, because so many persons might be forced to just jump into the definition of public speaking. Most times people feel they can define some terminologies, even though they cannot really define those terminologies in its actual sense. It's just like you asking somebody to define the word time. When you tell them to define the word time, they feel they can actually define it until they are given a privilege to define it, and then you begin to hear, time is wristwatch, time is clock, time is no. So all those various definitions do not sum up to what the definition of time is. So this brings us to what is public speaking. And in the ebook I released earlier this month, in the 7 easy steps to public speaking, I quickly defined it as simply speaking in the public. What I'm doing right now is public speaking. When you have 2-3 persons gathered together and you're talking to them, that is public speaking. And it's not just about you speaking to people. It is also about you impacting value to people. If you have any intention of impacting into someone, then the tool you make use of is public speaking. Now, this is why the field of public speaking cuts across so many disciplines. Now, before, public speaking used to be restricted to orators. It used to be restricted to people who studied linguistics in university. It used to be restricted to people who did mass communication in school. But it has moved from that point to the present dispensation, because we will no longer ascribe public speaking to only people who studied linguistics and mass communication. And those persons, when they actually graduate, they become orators. That was in the past. That's like something obsolete right now. Public speaking has replaced oratory skills. So, like I said, public speaking is when you converse in public, when you discuss with people in public, when you impact into someone in public. The next question you should be asking is, what are the purposes of public speaking? How is it important and how is it relevant to you? How is it important and how is it relevant to you? Who can be a public speaker? In which discipline will public speaking skill actually suffice better? And the simple answer is, in every discipline. Now, this is it. If you seek to impact into the younger generation, then the only skill you make use of is public speaking skill. Because this is one of the ways you can impact into another person. Public speaking is not meant for one particular person. It's not meant for a group of people. While some persons are birthed with the skill of public speaking, because I'm going to jump into the skills in public speaking very soon. Some persons are given birth to and they are good orators. Very good orators. Like when you hear them speak like this, man, this guy is eloquent, this guy is fluent, this guy is everything ends. While some other persons have to go through the rigor of learning the skills in public speaking. They have to go through the rigor of practicing and training, going through several trainings upon training upon training upon training to attain to that position or to attain to that stature of being a public speaker. Now, this reminds me of the story I shared in the ebook I wrote, how I moved from being a stammerer to being a public speaker. And when people meet me now and I tell them I used to be a stammerer, it's almost like a miracle to them, like you, seriously, you did stammer before? I shared that story in the ebook, and I'm going to do the same thing right now. When I was giving birth to in the late 90s, don't expect me to tell you my age. So in the late 90s, that's how we do it professionally. So in the late 90s, when I was giving birth to, like every other normal child, I was birthed 2 beautiful girls before me. Now, this was the story I was being told. After that time, it was now time for me to begin talking. It was time for me to begin constructing the little sentences that we all have when you give birth to a child, dada, stuff like that, trying to call the father, trying to call the mother. It was time for me to do all those stuff. And I did it because it's not quite difficult to talk. How you know a stammerer is when they begin to construct longer sentences. When it's short, you can quickly just say it and move along. But when it's longer, it takes a long while before they construct those sentences. So I began growing, and then I remember vividly, it got to a point I started stammering. Yes, I started stammering. And I could remember vividly that before I made any request to my parents, I would have to rehearse it. I would go back. I was like, let's assume I want to meet my dad and tell him to give me money to buy soap. I'll go back, like, Daddy, give me money to buy soap. Daddy, give me money to buy soap. Daddy, give me money to buy soap. Then I'll jump out. Daddy, give me money to buy soap. And if you did not hear me the first time, that's it. I'm not going to repeat myself again. Because I would have rehearsed it like 7 to 10 times before I muster up the courage to say what I wanted to say. And then if he said, what are you saying? Hey, this man did not hear me. I have to go back again and begin to practice. Daddy, give me money for soap. Daddy, give me money for soap. Daddy, give me money for soap. Then I'll come out again. Daddy, give me money for soap. So at that point, it was my parents were like, okay, let's see, maybe he's just trying to forge it, or he's just trying to imitate somebody and stuff like that. But as time went by, it became chronic. And at that point, I could barely construct sentences. I could barely discuss with people. I could barely have any conversation with anybody. So you will see me, I have to be like hitting myself and clapping everywhere. If you're around me, I can even hit you just to try to say something. Now, my parents, which I'm proud of, are clergy. My dad is a pastor, my mom is a pastor. And then it got to a point one day, while I tried to make requests from my dad, I met him, I said, I was trying to request something, and I was hitting myself and trying to muster up courage to say that thing. And he just looked at me like, yeah, devil is a liar. You know how the Nigerian pastors behave. Devil is a liar. I reject you. It can't be my son. And then he started praying on me. I was like, Father, release the tongue of my son. Karabash. And one good thing about it was the prayer worked, and that's why you're hearing me now. The prayer worked. But now I'm narrating all this story not to tell you how I became a stammerer, because all this scenario did not make me a public speaker. It only made me a speaker without the public. So this now takes us to the ebook I wrote, the 7 easy steps to public speaking. So what are those skills you need that every person as a beginner, once you hit on these steps, you should be able to stand before any audience and say something. You should be able to stand before your let's say you have a meeting in your place of work. You should be able to stand where the staff are having a meeting and say something. Supposing you are in the church in your youth meeting and then they call upon you to say something, you should be able to stand up and express yourself without fear or favor. So we're going to be looking at the 7 easy steps to public speaking. I actually prepared a lot of things on my phone. In fact, I did a lot of research. Yesterday night, I was up till late night doing lots of research, trying to see how I can come up with something. But then I discovered that, okay, and there's no point in cramming it. You see me with my phone, I was trying to pick 1 or 2 things, but I said, no, let's flow. That'll be better. The book was written by me, and I'm still alive, so I should be able to talk about it. So, the first point I highlighted, or the first step I highlighted in the ebook I wrote, is 1, knowledge of the subject matter. How to become a public speaker. 7 easy steps. 1 is knowledge of the subject matter. And I'm going to explain this with practical examples. Now, you see, most times you're being called upon to say something, maybe in an event or in a gathering, and then they tell you you have 10 minutes to talk. Then in like 1 minute 30 seconds, you've exhausted everything you know, and you're like, What will I be saying for 10 minutes? Has that happened to you before? Like you are called upon to discuss on this topic for like just maybe let's say 5 minutes, and then in just 30 seconds you've exhausted everything you know about that topic. What played out there is that you do not have sufficient knowledge of the subject matter. You see, everybody tends to have much knowledge in their field of interest. Everybody tends to have much knowledge in their field of interest. I'll explain this to you now. If you meet a young guy that loves watching football, you tell him, you engage him in a discussion. He will be so active in the discussion. That same person that couldn't speak for 5 minutes will discuss football with you for hours and he's not tired. Why? Because that's his area of specialization. That's his area of interest. So everybody tends to discuss more based on their area of interest. Now, if you must become a public speaker, there's one principle I will give to you. If you must become a public speaker, if you must become someone who will impact into others, irrespective of the field of discipline that you are. Because whatever discipline that you find yourself, whether you're a doctor, an engineer, a pastor, a pilot, whatever, an entrepreneur, whatever field you find yourself, the only way you will be successful in impacting into people is via your public speaking skills. Because you have to stand. In fact, even if you become a writer, some persons will tell you, I'm too shy to talk. That's why I became a writer. Hello. Look at the people who have become successful writers. You see them present their book. Because you have to talk about that book, that thing you wrote about, and you have to talk about it. So you can't run away from public speaking skills. It's something that will catch up with you anytime, any day. As a public speaker, the first principle I'm going to give to you on this step, you must know little of everything. I repeat myself. You must know little of everything. What it means is this. Now, if you're called upon to speak in a meeting of doctors, you should be able to contribute in that discussion. If you are called upon where footballers are, you should be able to contribute in that discussion. If you are called upon where engineers are talking, you should be able to contribute in that discussion. You said your interest was in you mentioned Solomon Lange, you mentioned Moses Bliss, you mentioned Chioma Jesus, and then in the area of the Araria music, I was able to converse with her. In the area of the contemporary gospel songs, I was able to converse with you. So, what's your hobby? What's your interest? Just think. I'll ask you too. Oh, you're also in music. Three of you are in music. People should rest. Rest in Jesus' name. Musicians everywhere. What's your interest? Music too. Business. What kind of business? You want to be an entrepreneur, or you want to be, or you want to be self-employed? An entrepreneur. I read something somewhere, and the person said that there's a difference between someone who is self-employed and someone who is an entrepreneur. I'll give you the quick differences, then we'll continue. The first is a person who is self-employed has just created a job for himself and he controls his time. An entrepreneur is someone who creates job for others. Now, if you say you are an entrepreneur and you cannot leave your job for 30 days and the job is still running, or your business is still running, then you're not an entrepreneur, you're just self-employed. If you must be around all the time. Now that's in the aspect of business. Do you have any role model in business? In what line of business? Cosmetic. Okay. I don't know much of I don't know Zaron. I know Sapphire. I know Zara. Yes, I know Zara. And then I know Mary Kay is also a brand of cosmetic as well. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is you should have little knowledge of everything. You should know little of everything. So that in any place you find yourself, you should be able to discuss and you won't be found stranded. So if I go for a cosmetic seminar and I'm called upon to give a speech, I should know the terminologies to make use of. I should know the things to say. If I go to a music seminar, both of you mentioned music. If I go to a music seminar, I should know things to say as well. So, one of the ways in which you can build enough knowledge of the subject matter is to read. Let nobody deceive you, is to read. Because the more you read, the more you expand your knowledge. The more you read is the more you expand your knowledge. The things I know did not just come into me. I did not just wake up, or I was not just giving birth to and then I know everything I know right now. It's not possible. Nobody does that. So you have to pay the price of reading to know the things you know. If your interest is in music, read things that have to do with music. If your interest is in fashion, read things that have to do with fashion. But at every time, at every cost, make sure you are improving yourself and you are building knowledge. In that way, when you are called upon to speak, you see something, the Bible says something about out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh, right? So it means if you choke your head with enough knowledge, when you are called upon to speak for 10 minutes, in fact, as at 9 minutes, you will still see that you have a lot of things to still say. Because your head is still full. You have been embedded with enough knowledge of the subject matter. Is that taken? Okay. So, let's jump quickly to the second point. Now, the second point is communication over language. Communication over language. When I wrote that down, many persons will tell you, some public speakers will try to streamline you to speak in a particular way. They try to tell you how to sound British, or they tell you how to sound American, or they tell you how to sound in a particular way. But no, you see, in public speaking, we prioritize communication over language. We prioritize communication over language. What that means is, if you are able to successfully communicate, it doesn't matter the language you use, as long as you have communicated. So even if you are using pidgin and your audience understands pidgin, you communicated perfectly. Even if you go to your village and then you're trying to deliver a speech in your village, then you've learned a lot of phonetics in Abuja. You go to your village and then you're speaking English for them in your village. No matter how rich the points are, no matter how do I put it down, no matter how efficient the things you are saying are, the people that you are saying it to are not understanding you. And when communication is not there, then the purpose of public speaking has been defeated. So you must always learn to communicate. Now, what is communication? Communication is the art of, when you talk and this person receives it, he doesn't stop at receiving it. He gives a feedback. Then communication has taken place. As I'm talking, I'm looking at your faces. I'm trying to get feedback from your faces. If not, I'll have to go over the point again and again and again and again. So that's how you know that communication has taken place. You send, in the process of encoding and decoding. Let's break it down. When I send out a message to you, I give out an information to you. You receive the information and then you give me feedback. You reciprocate. You either give me feedback via your speech, verbally, or you give me feedback from your face, your facial gestures. Then I know, okay, truly this person understands what I'm saying. Then I can forge ahead. So in public speaking, we prioritize communication over language. So if you want to become a public speaker, you should seek out for communication skills. Ways in which you can communicate with people. Ways in which you can communicate with people. It's not just, this is why I'm not a fan of people that always say you have to sound a particular way to speak to particular people and blah 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 blah. I'm not a fan. I don't do that. If you have an audience that speak English, If you have an audience that understands English, then you have to communicate with them in English. Imagine what I'm saying now and I'm doing cut and join. You can't say, then I'm hitting present and past tense, just knocking them together. I'll tell you, there's one particular example my dad always gives whenever he's preaching, and I think it's quite funny. He said, imagine you're an illiterate and then you're trying to cast out the devil, and demon came out. You know, and he always say, if you have the power, the demon will came out. But you see, now what I'm trying to say is, you shouldn't prioritize the language. Prioritize communication. To the simplest form. If I'm speaking, now I'm a teacher by profession. If I'm speaking to students, I teach the secondary session. If I'm speaking to my students in the secondary session, JS1, I know how I communicate with them in JS1. If I'm speaking to the ones in SS, I know how I communicate with them in SS. And if I go to the primary session to discuss with the pupils, I also know how I discuss with them, because you cannot use high-level language for them. You have to break it down to the simplest form for them to understand and comprehend. So that's how it works. So if you must become a public speaker, please prioritize communication. What I'm saying this is, don't be ashamed of the way you pronounce words. That's why I'm saying this. Do not be ashamed of the way you pronounce words. As a matter of fact, English is not your mother tongue. Yes, you are not the original speaker of English. As a matter of fact, even Britain, they are not the original speakers of English language. The original speakers of the English language are called the Anglo-Saxons. That's why it's called Anglophone. Yes, they are called the Anglo-Saxons. They were the Vikings, moving from one place to another. So even British are not even speaking the English as it's supposed to be, because they're not the original speakers of English. So they should not streamline you to say that you must sound British if you must become a public speaker, or you must sound American. No. As long as you can construct simple grammar together, please go ahead. It doesn't matter how your intonation, how your diction sounds. Go ahead. Don't be ashamed of the way you speak. If you have the Igbo tone, now one delay watch. As I'm talking to you, if you have that kind of tone, ride on. If you have the Yoruba tone, ride on. If you have the Hausa tone that always interfere P and F, fearful, please ride on. Okay? So don't be ashamed of how you speak or how you pronounce your words, because English is not your mother tongue. So that being said, we're going to be moving to the next point, which is quite important. It is body movement. Body movement in public speaking. This point is so important, and recently there have been a lot of introduction in technology that has to do with the AI. Okay, ChatGPT, AI, and people are already forecasting that AI will soon replace a lot of people in their place of jobs and the rest of them. And yesterday night, I had to ask ChatGPT. I said, will AI replace public speakers? and the AI responded and said no. Why? I'll give you the reason. Because when you are doing public speaking, what I'm saying is I'm not just speaking to open air. I'm communicating with your emotions. I'm picking feedback from you. I'm getting your facial expressions. And this singular thing I'm doing, robots cannot do it. AI cannot do it. Okay? AI cannot do it. Robots cannot do this. So in that way, I can tell you, if you're looking out for having a career in public speaking, then welcome. Because AI will not replace you. AI will not replace you. So back to what I was saying. Body movement. Now, the simple form of body movement I'll give to you is this. If you must, because when you're conversing with your audience, you must seem confident. You must seem confident. You must seem bold. There are certain gestures you make, it makes you feel very, very intimidated. It makes you feel very, very shy. It makes you feel so little of yourself. So when you're called upon on the stage to speak, some quick body movements you should do is keeping your legs closely like this. I won't advise. So instead, you have to you loosely spread your legs, you chest out a little, and then this gives you the posture of a confident person. Because when you chest out, you're looking straight. It gives you the posture of a confident person. Now, most times, most people are always caught up on when they are called up on stage to come and speak. Before you know, they stand like this. Good day, ladies and gentlemen, with their hands like this. No. Or, good day, ladies and gentlemen. No. All this, do not at any point cross your hands, please, on stage. As I've been speaking, you've not seen me do my hand like this or like this. So at any point, do not cross your hands on stage, except you're trying to give an illustration anyways. And then you need to be careful of your gestures. You use your hands to gesticulate. You use your hands to pass out messages. You use your hands to emphasize points. So, if you're speaking on stage and I come on stage and I say, good ladies and gentlemen, my name is OYIGBA, and it is indeed a great privilege for me to stand before you and speak on the topic technology. And if this is one person, and another person comes and say, good day, ladies and gentlemen, my name is OYIGBA. It is indeed a great privilege for me to stand here and speak on the topic technology. The person who seems more confident is the second person, because of your hands make you to have bold movement. But you don't just do it anyhow like you are doing choreography. You don't just do it like you're doing choreography. So you have to restrict the movement. You make those movements whenever you want to emphasize something. And then you restrict walking around. I said earlier that I'm a teacher by profession. So when I coach students on debate, I always tell them when you're moving around, when you're walking around, you have to restrict your movement. Because imagine you're standing like this, good ladies and gentlemen, my name is and I'm here to stand in the motion which says teachers are better than doctors with the following point of mind. You will seem very, very unserious because of your gestures are too fast and they are not concise. So when you're making those gestures, good day, ladies and gentlemen, my name is OYIGBA, and I stand here to propose the motion which says teachers are better than doctors with the following points of mind. As you're speaking and you're making those bold movements, your audience are caught in with you. Your audience are caught in with you. So that being said, it's very important for you to know how to make your body movement on stage. Because so many persons, when they get on stage, should they put their hand in their pockets? Should they cross their hands? Should they whatever? I don't know. But some persons make some kind of movement that make them feel so, there's a way you come up on stage and then they will just know this one is not just bold, he's just very shy. You need to seem very, very confident when you're on stage. Do not rush your words. When you're speaking, don't rush your words. You don't have to be saying, and most times people rush their words when they feel nervous on stage. And the next point I'm talking about is stage fright. When they feel nervous on stage, they begin to rush their words and they become sweaty. And then before you know, something they're supposed to say, they just as if there's some hot porridge in their mouth. So make sure when you get on stage and you feel a little bit nervous or you feel nervous, instead slow down your speech. Slow it down and begin to speak one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. And when you do this, you'll become a prolific public speaker. So let's move to the next point. I said the next point is stage fright. But before stage fright, I would want to come into one point before that, and that is storytelling. Storytelling. This is very, 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 very important. If you noticed, when I started speaking, I started with a story, and that made you to be more interested in what I was saying. And it is not too difficult for you to get a story. It's not too difficult to get a story. Your story might be fictional. And when I mean fictional, it means your story might be imaginative, or your story might be non-fictional, which it might be real. So you can pick up something that happened to you in the past and share. You can pick up something that happened to someone that you know, or an imaginative story. You can pick it up and then you use that to build your speech before you start. And when you do that, you see everybody becomes so relaxed, and then unknowing to them, you have started speaking already. Unknowing to them, you started speaking, but they're not aware. They are still waiting for you to start. Not knowing that you started already with the story. You started speaking already with the story. So if you want to become a very, very interesting public speaker, you have to impute the skill of storytelling. Storytelling keeps your audience glued to you at the beginning and through to the end. It keeps the audience glued to you at the beginning and through to the end. That's what storytelling does. So you can share a story. It can either be fictional, or you can share a story. It can be non-fictional. And when I mean fiction, I mean it might be imaginative, like a story that's not real. Okay, you might want to talk about a story about, those tortoise story in while growing up. Story about tortoise, story about rabbit, story about the lion. Those stories are imaginative stories. They are fictional. You can pick them up and start speaking from there. So if you do this before you start, you can impute storytelling before, at the middle, or at the end. But make sure, because there's a thin line between storytelling and going off point. Most times you want to start to tell a story, and then before you know it, you've gone off the whole topic you're talking about entirely. You now start gisting. You now begin to gist. So you should be careful when you're telling. The story has to be relevant to the topic you're talking about. It has to be relevant to the topic you're talking about. So that is it for storytelling. The next is stage fright. And so many persons would have wanted me to start the point from stage fright, but I took stage fright to number 5 because it is not as important as so many persons place importance on it. It is not as important as so many persons have always placed importance on it. Stage fright, the truth is, stage fright will never go. Yes, stage fright will never go. For every single time when you come up on stage, you will feel stage fright. Isn't it? And to me, I've learned to use my stage fright properly. Stage fright is something I define as is a tool that helps to keep you in check on stage. So you don't get too confident of yourself. You don't get too confident on stage. So stage fright will keep you in check. You cannot go fumble now. So if anybody has told you that just keep talking, just keep talking, you will overcome stage fright, it's a lie. You will never overcome stage fright. Sorry. You can only learn to walk around with it. It doesn't leave. It stays. It stays. Stage fright never goes. It stays. Now, there's also one erroneous teaching that we were taught when we were growing up. I was also taught. They told you if you are shy and you go to the stage, if you are shy, look at the head of your audience. Don't look at their eye. Have I told you that before? They'll tell you if you're shy, look at their head. Don't look or their forehead. Don't look at their eye, so that you will not get intimidated or you will not be shy. No. That's a lie. It's an erroneous teaching. It's wrong. In fact, as a public speaker, you shouldn't employ that tool at all. If you must become an efficient public speaker, you must learn to look into the eyes of your audience, because in doing so, you are keeping them glued to what you're saying. As I'm speaking now and I'm looking into your eyes, it keeps you interested in what I'm saying. This is why audiovisual always outweigh or always overpowers audio. When I mean audiovisual, I mean television. People will always prefer television to radio. When they listen to radio, it's just audio. They can sleep up anytime. But when you watch those promo, those soap operas, or those television seasonal movies and the rest of them on your Telemundo, Z World, whatever. I love K-drama. I was going to say it. I'm not shy. I'll say it. When you watch those movies like that, you will rarely or you will hardly fall asleep. Why? Because something is keeping your eye busy. You are looking straight into the television. So you need to learn to look straight into the eyes of your audience as you're speaking. As I'm talking right now, I'm looking into your eyes. That same thing you should do when you're on stage. Because in that way, you keep them glued to what you're saying. You keep them glued to what you're saying. So if you're among the people that have been telling yourself, if I'm shy, I will just look at their head. Please don't do that again. It's wrong. It's an erroneous teaching. Instead, you should learn to build your confidence. You should learn to build your confidence. I've thought about confidence when I tell you, those body movements I said will help you to build your confidence. Maybe, let's say you get to an event center and you're being built on that event to speak as a speaker in that event. And when you get to the event, many people are always afraid. They always experience stage fright because they are unfamiliar with the stage. That is when stage fright comes. Your house is your stage. Your parlor, your room is your stage. When you have friends in your house, do you get scared to talk to them? Do you get shy to talk to them? No. But when you get out to an unfamiliar stage, that's when stage fright comes in, because they're not familiar with it. How do you overcome this? It's simple. Go to that place early and just begin to walk around the stage. Make it of the stage. Just bounce around the stage. Move around. As you're doing that, you're getting yourself conversant with the stage. And then when you begin to talk, you see that you are already into the stage. So, stage fright is something, I recap, stage fright is something that will never leave. And you just have to learn to work with it. You have to learn to work with it. Gradually, you begin to master it. Those celebrities, those big names, they experience stage fright. In fact, even before I came here to start this event, I experienced stage fright. But I'm still talking to you, and I'm so free. Like this is my house. So learn to work with your stage fright. It's a tool that when you use it very well. See, the problem in stage fright is that you don't know how to start. When you start, you flow. So what you should be planning when you get on stage to do, you should be practicing how to start. When you learn how to start, you flow. Once you learn how to start, you flow. I've been on different stages for different purposes. While being a public speaker, I'm also an MC, and I'm also a school administrator where I speak to parents at the Parent Teachers Association, where I also converse with students at the assembly ground, and those places are stage. In Nigeria here and in various states, I've been on different stages to communicate with people. And one thing is sure, stage fright does not leave. So, having said that, we'll move to our next point, which is the sixth one. I have 7, sixth one. Is it? Now, I said the 7 easy steps to public speaking. We've done 5 of them. Number 6, record yourself. Record yourself. If you must kill stage fright, if you must kill that shyness in you, record yourself. Because the problem that people always have on stage is, how do people see me? The way I'm talking like this, how they sure say good. Is it nice? The way I'm speaking like this. So it has not been a problem of how do people see me. So if you want to know how people see you, it's simple. Technology has made it simple. Get your phone, your smartphone, record yourself. Record yourself. Keep the camera and talk. When you go for events, tell someone, give somebody your phone, tell the person, video me, Oga. Record me. Okay? Then when you get back to the house, you sit down at night and you watch it and watch it and watch it and watch it. The reason why I have this confidence in speaking to you is because I already know how I look like on stage. Because at several occasions, I've given people my phone to do a video of me. When I started out earlier as an MC to anchor event, it was not easy because, you have to impute a lot of comedy, you have to impute a lot of have different kind of people in different events and how to just speak to them and all that, blah, 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 blah. What I did was I started anchoring little events, and from the little event I was doing, I would give someone my phone, please record me. Then when I get back home, I'll play it and I'll begin to watch myself. I begin to watch how I talk. I begin to watch the way I move. I begin to watch the way I smile. And I'm like, okay, this one no enter. Next time when I'm on stage, I will do like this. And then when I get the opportunity next time, I improve on that. And when someone records me again, I get back to the house, I watch it again. I am my own super fan. The number of times I watch my video, even me, I get tired. I watch I watch myself back to back, because at every given point, I'm always careful how I sound, how people see me, and how I move on stage. I'm careful. So if you want to build your confidence on stage, get someone with a smartphone. Tell the person, record me when I'm on stage. Do a record of me. So that when you get back home, you begin to watch it over and over and over again. And when you do that 5 times, 10 times, you might not even get to the 10th one, and then before you know it, you've built your confidence to the zenith. Now, having said that, the last point that I'm going to highlight on is very simple. And as simple as it is, many persons ignore it. It is what? Practice. Yes, it is practice. When you get up on stage at every given point, you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared. Now, preparing means if you're the kind of person that before you get up on stage, maybe because of being nervous, you would have maybe you forget some of your points. If you're that kind of person, what I'm going to advise you do is to get a piece of paper, highlight the point, okay, and go up on stage with it. There's no crime. When you're called upon to give a toast, you introduce yourself, you establish the relationship you have with the person in that event before you begin to say any wishes you have for that person. And you see, many people are always shy of this. Even some chairman of occasion are scared of this part. You see, chairman of occasion, I'll tell you, and Mr. Chairman, I tell you guys, I'm an MC. You tell the person, Mr. Chairman, sir, you're the one to give the opening remark. And then you're like, me? Ha! Please, give to my wife or give to the deputy chairman. Chairman that is not confident. Chairman, where no sit down way. So the way you can use to overcome this is practice. Highlight your points before you get up on stage. Highlight them. Then when you go up on stage, you follow it as you have practiced from the house. If you are good enough to know all the points off heart, that's great. If not, don't be scared. All right, there's always an introduction. There's always a beginning for everything. Go up on stage with your paper, not with the whole speech anyways, with the point that when you look at it, you remember everything that has to do with that point. Then you're good to go. So always practice. Always practice. In the ebook I wrote, I said something like, I can't count the number of times while walking on the street I have faked a phone call. I can't count the number of times. While walking, you see me on the street, you think, this guy is making a phone call to this very rich man. Or, no, it's a lie. I'll just do it with my phone, and maybe I'm trying to pass a place where I don't want anybody to talk to me. I just put it. Hello. Yes. All I'm trying to do, the phone is not in my ear. The phone is on recording. I will put it on sound recording. I'll turn the screen off, and then I put it in my ear like I'm making a phone call. What I'm trying to do is to see how I can speak when I'm called upon. I'll tell myself, okay, just imagine you are called upon to speak in a wedding. How would you start? Then I'll begin to talk. Imagine you are called upon to address children. How would you start? I'll begin to talk. Imagine you are called upon. I'll form all those things in my imagination, and then I start talking while recording over the phone. Then when I get to the house, I will sit down and play the recording, play it. The part I will laugh. And after that, I keep getting better. So you must always practice. You must always practice. You must always practice. Practice, they say, make perfect. Practice, they say, make perfect. So if there's any way that you must get better in public speaking, is to keep speaking. That means in your workplace, when you have a staff meeting, don't be afraid to stand up to give a suggestion or to share your idea. In your church, don't be afraid again to go out to share testimony. Or on your youth meeting in your church. In an event or a seminar, don't be afraid to raise your hand up to ask question or to answer a question. Because in so doing, you are building yourself step by step, precept upon precept. Gradually and gradually, you become better. You learn how to manage people. You learn how to converse with people. You learn how to discuss. And from just their facial expressions, you will know how to speak. So, this is about public speaking. This is basically an introductory class. Because there are some other dangers of public speaking, but I think the only danger of public speaking is when you say something that does not resonate with the audience. Let me say, you say something that the people don't like. Then you'll be hearing, you dey craze from the audience. You dey mad. Nonsense. They begin to boo you from the audience. Apart from that, I don't think there's any necessary disadvantage to being a public speaker. Public speaking also helps to build your personality. It builds your personality. It builds your personality. So, I'm going to be stopping here, and not even up to an hour.